You're watching WECT News at 11.
People all across the country and all around the world saw this image on September 14th of last year, the prayer. Wilmington firefighters gathering together after saving Adam Johnson's life. They're praying for Mr. Johnson's wife and child, who they could not save after a tree fell on the family's home during Hurricane Florence. More than a year now, and hundreds of fire and rescue calls later, memories of that day are still etched in the minds of these firemen, and likely will be for the rest of their lives. Firefighters arrived at 24 Mercer Avenue just as Hurricane Florence made landfall. A tree estimated at 80,000 pounds had crushed part of the Johnson family's home, killing Leisha Johnson and her 7-month-old son, and trapping her husband Adam.
He was pinned basically from his waist down. But, we were asking him, questions, who was in the room with him, where are they? And, he was telling us that his wife and baby were in there.
We're doing everything from underneath him to get him to drop while they're trying to get the tree up. So it was just a group effort of both teams to free his lower body.
After 3.5 hours of meticulous, dangerous work, firefighters brought Adam Johnson out alive.
Once we removed him with just a little bit more digging, we saw her, and it was just immediately we knew that, she was deceased.
The emotions on the faces of the firefighters told the story. They gathered together and prayed for the lives they could not save.
At that time, they still couldn't make access to the mother and the child. And it was abundantly clear to me, kind of running that scene, that these guys were not going to leave until they got them out either. That was not even an option. So it was a kind of a regroup, and a prayer was said, and then it's time to get back to work to get them out.
Crews worked for several hours, cutting away the floor and even a wall of the house to secure the bodies of Leisha Johnson and little Adam.
When we got to the mother and the baby, it was very peaceful almost to see it, because she was holding it. And it stuck out because of where they were in relation to Mr. Johnson. They were all right there. When I saw exactly where the mother and the baby were, it just killed me how close we had been working around them the entire time.
No offense to the media, to you, but I wasn't going to let the cameras capture the image of them being brought out. So we asked the police to relocate the media so that they didn't get a camera angle on bringing out these two. And these men put them in a Stokes basket, and they laid the baby on the mother, and they covered him, and we carried him out behind a blue wall of firefighters and put him in an EMS unit.
They put her baby with her. I won't forget that.
Why?
Well, I think, John, these are human beings. They have feelings, they have families, and so that was in recognition of the fact this was a family. They didn't know this family, but that was a family. Sorry.
More than a year has now passed since that rescue on Mercer Avenue. These men have responded to hundreds, maybe thousands of calls for help since that day. Yet the memories and the what-ifs still remain.
The crib, had the baby been in the crib's untouched. Baby would have lived. Would have been a better outcome. It's a hurricane. Wind's blowing hurricane force plus. Baby's in the crib crying. Where's baby gonna go? In the bed with mom and daddy. Life's not fair.
It's something that's never going to leave you. It's It was, you remember sight, smell, you remember all this stuff. It's weird how you never forget some things. But you got to move on. You know, it's always going to be back there. You just got to move on because you got a job to do.
That's what I tried to tell the guys, is that what they did was a win. They saved a man's life. You know, he would not be here if it was not what they did. And but you still hear how hard they take on someone that happened before they got there, that they weren't. They still look at that as defeat because it's a very tough pill to swallow sometimes.
Chief Buddy Martinet told me, as a leader of the fire department, he has to provide a way for these firefighters to be able to talk about and deal with emotions like you just saw. The other post-traumatic stress that comes up as well. So those feelings and emotions don't have long-term effects on his staff and on his department.
You know, the truth of the matter is, John, it will have a long-term effect on those of us in the WECT newsroom. I will never forget when we heard the call, and I have close friends who live on Mercer Avenue, so I remember thinking, how close was it to their house? And then hearing that it was a mother and a child, and then seeing the images of the firefighters praying. That's something you just don't get out of your mind.
No, and the one thing that those firefighters told me is that, you know, they go in, it's their job, they consider their job, to go into buildings or go into situations and pull people out alive. Then you heard them say that they saved a life. Chief Fix, they're saying what they did was a win. But so many of them look at it as that they couldn't save Leisha Johnson and little Adam. So they look at it in their own minds because they consider it a failure. And, you know, and they can go back and tell you so many other times when they delivered a baby or pulled somebody out of a car wreck. And they remember the good things, but again, they hold on to those things so long. And that's why it's so important for the chief and others to help these guys talk about it, get rid of those feelings. So long term, they don't keep them in and then they end up with post-traumatic stress or other things.
I tell you what we did see clearly, though, and nothing gets me like seeing a grown man cry.
Yeah.
I mean, Buddy Martinet, watching him cry
all those
in that
guys.
interview, and then that day seeing the emotions on their faces. We can't say thank you enough to our firefighters. They were not a failure. They certainly tried, and they did save Mr. Johnson. How is he doing, by the way?
He's fine. He is recovering. Leisha Johnson's daughter, who provided the pictures that we used, said that she wanted to tell the firefighters, thank you for all of the efforts they had that day. Let's hope it helps them move forward in some small way. All right, we'll be right back.